Double Hakeem Nicks action.
You have a Hakeem next one? Yours is cooler than mine.
Yes, sir. Mine's white, like when he caught that Hail Mary against the Packers.
Oh, big fan of that one. Big fan of that one. I'll tell you that right now.
I know how to shoot.
Double.
I know how to fight.
All right. We are on the live stream. Get in ready.
Permission to eat toast on the live stream.
Go ahead, bro. It's too early right now to be not eating toast. You feel me?
I feel that.
After last night, I need some toast. I'm not ready for tequila time too early today, I must say. Every week I'm like, yo, like when should tequila time start for the Giants? And I always end up with the same result before the game starts. Cause about halfway through, I'm like, I should have been drinking the whole time. I mean, if I was gonna be depressed, I might as well do it with tequila in my system.
Makes sense. Guess you had a good Oktoberfest celebration, huh?
I tried, man. I tried. I went out to if anyone lives in New York City or has spent time here, there's a really cool pier kind of system going on. So we went over to Pier 15 and essentially like they had a whole Oktoberfest thing, but the line was so long that we were online for like 2 hours. Or maybe a little bit less than that, but we decided to just leave because it was going to take a while to actually get into the place. And I was trying to do the whole Stein hoisting. I was trying to do the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. But unfortunately, like this year is just so messed up for anything Oktoberfest or anything that like involves going out and doing anything like fun, especially in the city. Like there's not much to do, and they closed down pretty much everything when it comes to that. But big Oktoberfest guy, trying to go to Germany soon. Unfortunately, it's like right during football season. So it's like the worst time for Oktoberfest to happen, but I might just say screw it and do my live streams from Germany next year and just go to Oktoberfest. So if any Germans are out there or anyone wants to meet up in Germany.
Meet up with Jan.
Hit up with Jan. Yeah, we'll go hit up with Jan and have a good time. So while we didn't end up going to Oktoberfest, we managed to find a few places to go to. So I'm enjoying this morning a little less than others. But it's part of being a Giants fan. You got to wake up already ready to go. Just the tequila flowing.
Wake up and be ready for depression.
Exactly. What I will say is that this week is an interesting one because the past couple of weeks I've kept saying that this is a must-win game, right? Like last week it was a must-win game against Dallas, and then against the 49ers was a must-win game for the Giants because of their entire injury situation and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And now we're sitting here like, this is another must-win game, and it's only for Dave Gettleman's sake. Like Dave Gettleman needs to get a win out of this game. Otherwise, how do you justify John Mara and management not firing him mid-season after starting the season 0-6? What is his record? 9-28 or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's 9-28 over 3 years as the Giants GM. We've seen no progress on the offensive line. Maybe they're building something. It's too soon to tell, but he doesn't have enough time. We don't have enough time and patience to sit here and watch this unit develop once again. I think that he might be the exception when it comes to firing someone early. This is a situation that I don't necessarily understand why the Giants are in still. And if you're just joining the live stream, a couple of people just joined. Anthony are rocking the double Hakeem Nicks jerseys. He's got the white and the white. That one looks tight on you, bro. Damn, what do you get? How old are you
small,
when you got
that? I think I got this during the Super Bowl run, that 2011 season. So this is about 9 years old now. Yeah.
This one, I must have been like just an absolute maniac because I bought this at the same time, and it's still big on me. Like I was so much smaller back then, and like it's still big on me. So I don't know what I was thinking. Like I got extra, maybe it was like on sale and I got like the only size available, but I remember like actually like playing backyard football in this thing. But it's cool because it's the mesh material, it's not, it's like the old school, like it's mesh. It's like when I don't even know who actually makes a Reebok.
Actually, you know what? This is a Nike, so I must have gotten this after the Super Bowl run.
Yeah, like this is a Reebok one.
They were wearing Reebok in the Super Bowl. So
right, this is when Reebok was making the worst quality stuff of all time. Like
someone said it looks tattooed on me, which is a little tight.
That's actually clowning.
That's true.
Who said Jones is gonna have
2
fumbles
88.
today? Who said Jones is gonna have 2 fumbles today?
Are we gonna say that's not accurate?
I mean, it's
likely.
It's kind of accurate. Let's talk about that though. That's actually funny. It looks tattooed on you. That's hilarious. Shout out to Trini, DB.
Simon also asks, do we think Slayton's going to have a day today like last week?
I do. I said this on Twitter. I said on Twitter,
he's not going to have a day like last week. I think
maybe
he'll
not
have a decent day, but I don't think it's going to be. I mean, he played really well last week. I think it's going to be hard to match that, but he'll come close.
But why? But why did he play so well? You know, why did he play so well?
Is this a rhetorical question?
Yes.
I am eating toast, Simon. I need my toast right now. I've had a stomach virus this week, so I can't eat a lot of things, but toast goes down okay, so I'm having toast right now.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Haskin.
I'm eating like I'm Dwayne Haskins. About to start stuffing my face like Dwayne Haskins. He's a big boy.
Yeah, but he's also sucked, so.
He's also a third string right now. He's inactive today.
Third string, yeah, he's inactive. I mean, they're going to trade him. They're going to trade him. And what are they going to get back for him? I have no idea. What do you guys think? Do you think they're going to trade him? Because I 100% think they will. Maybe he'll go to the Patriots or something, but I don't think they even want him. Like, why, if you're Ron Rivera and your quarterback, obviously something happened behind the scenes, right? Something had to happen to Dwayne Haskins, or he said something to management that made them think, we are benching you like eternally and we're trading you now. Like, think about how bad that really is. Like how bad whatever he did was so bad that they actually like benched his ass, and now they're going to trade him after like a few weeks in his second year as quarterback for Washington. What do you think happened behind the scenes there? That's crazy to me.
Well, I read the report that after they lost to Baltimore, he was bragging about his stats.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But is that a tradable offense though?
Yeah.
Really? Because Baltimore's a good team, and like I think it's more about him. I think that's just one incident. I think he's been like kind of self, like arrogant and just gloating about himself more than actually helping the team. And like, maybe he's blaming other people for the losses. The offense has been garbage, by the way. The offense ranks in the bottom 5 in the league. So it's not like they're any good.
What I think happened with Haskins is last year he had the issues with not reading the playbook, and he wasn't working very hard. And I think that was obviously a red flag for Washington, and they started to get a little skeptical. But he came in to a new coaching staff, and he had a lot to prove, right? And then he really wasn't proving it. He was playing okay, and they were being patient. But then he keeps posting on social media about his stats and all this and all that, and then he starts bragging about his individual performance during a team loss. He's just proving every single chance that he gets, he's proving that he's not a good teammate and he's not a leader at the quarterback position. No quarterback should be bragging about their stats after losing a game. So that's what I think.
Facts. No, that makes sense. Trini seems to have insight that we don't know about, though. There's way more into his benching. I'm curious, Trini. What are you thinking? What happened behind the scenes, bro? I'm curious now. And look, I want to go back to Darius Slayton for a second, just because there's a bunch of people talking about him. He does fit Jason Garrett's scheme, and really it's because Jason Garrett's begun to actually look at him, right? It's because he's seen Darius Slayton. He saw that one-handed catch last week probably and said, there is something with this kid. He's actually really, really talented, and if you throw the ball up to him, there's a good chance he's going to make a play. Now, I'm just worried that they're going to scheme him out of the game again. Like they did not push him downfield the first couple of weeks, aside from week 1. They got to push him down the field. The Redskins, or rather Washington, I'm never going to get over that, by the way. Like, I grew up there. They were the Redskins. Obviously, I think that it was fine to change the name or whatever, but I'm always going to make that same mistake. Anyway, Darius Slayton, you have to push him down the field. You have to stretch the defense because it opens up the running game too, by the way, especially in Jason Garrett's outside zone blocking scheme. If you're going to run to the outside, you need to have players in man coverage. And Anthony, last week, what we saw with the pre-snap motion in the first quarter, that was like revolutionary for the Giants, because there was one specific play where Jason Garrett has Daniel Jones, utilizing that pre-snap motion to determine whether or not it's zone or man coverage. He actually motions Golden Tate over to the right side. He watches Jalen Smith, the linebacker for Dallas, one of their best players, motion along with him. So okay, this is man coverage. He's manning up against Golden Tate, which is already a mismatch. Jalen Smith goes into the slot, opens up a huge gap right between their interior defensive lineman and pass rusher, and they literally just scheme that running lane right open, and Devonta Freeman picks up 9 yards. It was like the easiest call I've ever seen. It looked like Eli Manning doing it, like he knew what was happening. And it was finally something that we could be like, okay, Daniel Jones actually knows what's happening before the snap. Jason Garrett's just doing the you can't actually do those things when you're running high up tempo offenses, right? That's the downside to running quick offenses, doing like up tempo, that you can't diagnose the play before it happens. So I think they should slow the game down, find the mismatches. They should be running drag routes and streaks with Evan Engram. What the hell is the whole curl route pandemic that's happening with Evan Engram, by the way?
Curl route pandemic. I haven't heard that one. I've heard a COVID pandemic, but not the curl route pandemic. Yeah, no,
it's a pandemic for the Giants.
I mean, I definitely think last week, we saw a lot of improvement with the offensive scheme in the first quarter with the pre-snap motion. I just think it didn't really continue all the way through the game. I think with Jason Garrett, most offenses script their first 10 to 12 plays. I think Jason Garrett put together a fire script last week. And then once he was off script, it was kind of a little bit inconsistent is how I felt. So I'm hoping this week, maybe he can make better adjustments and not really kind of teeter out after we get off script, because as well as Daniel Jones played in moments in that game, he still didn't throw a touchdown pass. He hasn't thrown one since week 1. We need to see Jason Garrett open up this offense in a way where Daniel Jones can actually get the ball into the end zone. We did get the ball in the end zone a couple times on the ground, which was great, but I'd like to see some more of a passing attack, a more creative passing attack, especially with Evan Engram, like you mentioned, because I think Evan Engram really should thrive in the scheme, but all they make him do is stick routes, curls, hitches. They don't actually stretch him down the field. They don't have him run any double moves or anything like that we've seen him run in the past with efficiency. They're not letting him do it, and it's frustrating because I do think Evan Engram, if you really utilize that athleticism that he has, he can be a very special player. And now we have a long conversation going on in the chat right now about Golden Tate. I want to give my take on Golden Tate.
Me too.
I think he is a perfect trade candidate because I don't think he fits in this scheme right now. He hasn't been getting the targets. He hasn't been getting the separation. He hasn't been doing much after the catch. They haven't really been giving him the ball in space with screen passes or anything like that to really give him a chance to get out in space and make people miss. He used to be the yak king. We haven't seen that this year. I think that there is another team out there, though, like maybe the Patriots, that might need a veteran receiver just to take the load off of their quarterback, or just to, create a little more of a one-on-one matchup for another receiver on their team. I think there are teams out there that might value Golden Tate, at least minimally, to where we can get something in return for him rather than potentially cutting him in the offseason for nothing. Because it doesn't look like he really has a place on this team right now, is the way that I see it. I hope he proves me wrong today. Maybe he can have a breakout performance. But so far through these first 5 weeks, he hasn't been totally involved with the offense. And I feel like it's kind of the writing is on the wall at this point. And it seems like Golden Tate's time with the Giants is coming to an end. So I think, now we're in week 6. We've got 2 weeks until the trade deadline. I think it's time to start thinking about maybe moving on from Golden Tate and trying to get a draft pick in return for him.
Right. The scheme that actually fits Golden Tate perfectly is the Chiefs, just most like any players. He is best when you give him space to operate in, right? The Giants haven't been giving him any space. They should be wide receiver screening him. They should be getting him into open space. Those kind of those mesh routes where, you're kind of picking those guys, like what Damian Ratley got called on. That is where Golden Tate excels in. If you get him into the open space across the field, he can make things happen. That's why he's the yak king. And this year he's been the yak bum. That's just kind of where the lack of scheme is fitting. Like you guys have mentioned, I keep seeing it in the chat too. Like the scheme just doesn't fit Golden Tate because they're not getting him in space. They're not scheming him open. They're not focusing on him. He's not the focal point. Honestly, I don't even know who the focal point right now is. That's kind of what Jason Garrett said a week and a half ago. We don't even know what our strengths are yet. And I'm like, really? Because I feel like most fans are looking at this team and saying, we know what our strengths are. Golden Tate needs to be in space. Evan Engram needs to be working out of the seam and, running drag routes on those play actions where Jones rolls out to the left or right. You need to be putting him on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage and then dragging him across. You need to be Darius Slayton pushing him downfield on deep post routes or deep streak routes. You need to be getting these guys and maximizing them to their potential and their strengths, right? That is what he hasn't done. And that is why our offensive coordinators have been absolute bums the last couple of years when in conjunction with, do make head coaching duties with Shermer and Ben McAdoo. My primary issue, the one thing I've been super concerned about, is that we've tried to force our players into their scheme and not build around our players, right? Like you guys are all saying it right now, we're wasting Evan Ingram's talent, and I 100% agree. Although I will say he's the worst run blocker I've ever seen in my life. The guy couldn't block if you gave him brass knuckles. So that's my problem with Evan Engram. With Darius Slayton, we finally saw last week that if you just throw him the ball, there's a good chance he's going to catch it, right? There's a good chance he's going to come down with it. And then
we saw that against Detroit last year too.
Exactly. And not having Sterling Shepard, by the way, is a huge loss. He is one of our best receivers on the outside and inside. You can swap him around. He is
What's the timetable on his injury?
I think he'll be back next week. I think this week he got some early running in, but I knew he wasn't going to play this week. He was still working back. I think next week I expect him against the Eagles. That'll be a big divisional game. If we win this week, we have to have him back for next week.
Well, it's a shortened week, so we're playing on Thursday, so maybe there's a chance he doesn't play, but he should definitely be back the week after that, I think. But then, this week, the next week, and then we have the trade deadline coming up, so it would be important for Shepard to get on the field by then. Just in case the Giants really do decide to have a fire sale and blow things up, which I don't think that they will because it's Dave Gettleman, and I don't think he's going to want to do that. But just in case there is a fire sale, we should see Sterling Shepard on the field before the sale happens,
Yeah, no, I agree. And if you're in the chat listening, post who you think that they're going to actually sell high on, or I guess really sell low because everyone's kind of sucking right now. But I would say that Golden Tate's on the board, and I don't think we're getting anything more than a 7th rounder for him because of his contract.
I think a 5th. I think you can get a 5th from a team.
If they get a 5th, I would sell him in 30 seconds.
Yeah,
I'd sell him in 30 seconds.
Well, I mean,
get a 5th for him.
I've seen who was it? Jarrell Casey. He got traded for like a 7th. I don't know. I just think if you go by the positional value, the wide receivers, there's a lot of teams in the league that aren't comfortable with the receiving core, and they might be willing to give up a 5th, 6th, or 7th. I feel like for Tate, because I do think, if you look back at last year's film, Tate was a pretty solid player. He made a lot of good plays, like that 60-yard screen pass to the house against the Jets comes to mind.
Yep.
The 50-yard touchdown pass against Miami that he caught from Eli Manning comes to mind. Like, he has the ability to make these great plays when there's schemes for him. We just haven't seen it this year. And I do think it's a continuing theme, but I think it's an indictment on Jason Garrett and how he's called this offense. But then I think, the obvious trade candidate for the Giants right now is Evan Engram. I think we all know that he is like, his seat is red hot, maybe even just as hot as Dave Gettleman's. Like, we've been expecting really big things from Evan Engram, and we have not seen him meet the expectations at all so far. We saw it in his rookie season, and we haven't since then. Since then, he's been hurt more and more every year. This year, he's been healthy, and he hasn't looked like the same player. Whether you want to say that's part of the scheme and another indictment on Jason Garrett, that's what I would say. But who knows? I just think that he's probably the one player that I would trade if we had to trade anybody ahead of this deadline. Yeah,
you're right. And I'm seeing a bunch of people, talking in the chat right now. I think that you're right, G-Man and Simon, that the defensive line is really where our value is. Those are the players that we can actually get something from. Golden Tate's not going to get us a higher round pick at all. Sterling Shepard might get us a 4th rounder because he's always injured, so no one can really commit to him and rely on him. Then you have a guy like Evan Engram, who I don't think we're getting anything more than a 3rd rounder for at most, because he only has 1 year left on his contract, so you got to keep that in mind. And the injuries are so serious, like G-Man is saying. So those are really my thing. I think Dalvin Tomlinson's a big one because you could go to another team and say, hey, we'll sell you him just to get his rights. Like we did with Leonard Williams. We essentially traded for Leonard Williams, a 3rd and a 5th round pick, just to be able to sign him the next season. Dalvin Tomlinson is a player that is really good, but on a better team than us, I think he would be an absolute monster. I think he's a monster now, but when you put some better players around him, when you give him some confidence and you put him on a winning team, you'd be surprised what that does for a lot of people. Just the confidence of like winning. I think that Dalvin Tomlinson is like maybe a 3rd or 2nd round pick value long term. Leonard Williams, I don't think anyone wants him because I know that they know they're gonna have to pay him. And it's going to be $14 to $15 million per year. I don't know if I'm willing to do that, Anthony. Are you willing next year, based on Leonard Williams' stats so far, to extend him on a multi-year deal? Because the way I look at it is that he has a lot of hidden production. He really soaks in the double teams. His pass rush win rate's good. He puts up a lot of pressures, but the reality is like he's not converting those into sacks, and it's been hurting us.
The thing with Leonard Williams is I think he's a very good player. He might be one of the best players. He is one of the best players on our team, right? And you mentioned those hidden stats. He gets a lot of pressures and everything, right? But the thing is, look at how much Leonard Williams is going to need to be paid, and then look at how much Dalvin Tomlinson is going to need to be paid. And then look at how the pass rushing that you might miss out from Leonard Williams and Dalvin Tomlinson is made up for by Dexter Lawrence. And you could probably get someone else just to fill double teams on the other side for much cheaper. Leonard Williams, does he really need to be considered a long-term investment of over $16 million a year? I don't think so. I agree with G-Man. I would rather keep Tomlinson because we can get him on a cheaper deal. Williams wants 15 to 18 million a year, as G-Man pointed out. That is too much in my opinion. I think Tomlinson is more of a bargain player. Tomlinson is, we're going to need to pay him as well if we want to keep him around because he's going into the final year of his contract.
10 to 12.
I think it might even be 10 million or less for Dalvin Tomlinson because he really, he does, he just stuffs the run. He's pretty one-dimensional, but he's very good at that and he's very consistent. He's never missed a game. He's only missed like 3 career tackles. The guy is very consistent, very good at what he does. Leonard Williams is just more versatile because he can rush the passer a little more. But I think that there's other ways that you could supplement a pass rush without relying on Leonard Williams just to get a pressure or 3 pressures every game or so. So I don't know. I prefer to sign Tomlinson and free up some cap space that way because you have to think, I know Saquon Barkley's hurt right now, but if he comes back healthy, we're going to have to give him some money for an extension. If Daniel Jones happens to pan out, we got to give him money for an extension. And then there's really not a whole lot of other extensions to give out because actually, you know what? That's a good point. BJ Hill, I'm happy you brought him up and Simon brought him up as well.
I just saw it. Good job, Simon.
I was a huge fan of BJ Hill before the Leonard Williams trade. And I was disappointed that he got buried in the depth chart because of the Leonard Williams trade, because he had 5.5 sacks as a rookie, which because they didn't take the sack statistic in Lawrence Taylor's rookie season, that is the record in Giants history for most sacks in a rookie season with 5.5, which is actually, if you think about that, very funny that Lawrence Taylor was so dominant in his rookie season that they had to add a sack statistic the next year. That's pretty cool. He's the greatest of all time, but anyway, I'll let you give your take, but I do think that BJ Hill as a starter, opposite of Dexter Lawrence, is completely fine. I think that is completely fine. And I think the Leonard Williams trade, I'm very disappointed that it buried BJ Hill because it stunted his growth. And I don't think that he's worth all the money that he's asking for.
Right. Now, Leonard Williams does a really good job at what he is specifically tailored for, soaking up double teams, putting pressure on quarterbacks, but not really finishing the sacks. He's also very, very talented against the run. Now, replicating that with a draft pick or, anyone that's cheaper is going to be extremely difficult. The Giants utilize those 3 heavy defensive linemen to soak up run blockers, soak up running backs. The issue is the Giants don't have the outside linebacker talent to seal the edge. So what teams have been doing the last couple of weeks, and it's worked very, very well for them, is they just run the ball to the outside zone, pitch plays, crack plays. All they do is get it outside the interior defenders, and they force the outside linebackers and cornerbacks to have to step up and make plays. And that's where the Giants are weak in the running game. They're without Lorenzo Carter there now with Marcus Golden. I actually really like Kyler Fackrell, but they just don't have the cornerbacks and the slot options to stop the run when it comes to those running backs getting to the outside. That's their biggest problem. So the teams have been running away from the interior defensive line, which is good because now you know what they're going to do. So you can begin to start to adapt to that and fill players. But what I really think is that I love BJ Hill. I think that if you put him as a starter in this unit, he's actually plays very, very well. He gets consistent pressure. He's good against the run, but he's no Leonard Williams, right? You're not going to get the same value as Leonard Williams that you will with BJ Hill. Now you can go out and draft another interior defensive lineman in the 2nd, 3rd round and fill that spot pretty easily with a big body. I think you rotate BJ Hill in a draft pick next year. You don't give Leonard Williams $15 to $18 million per season because alternatively you could say, take that money, go out and sign Allen Robinson, for example, or go out and sign I don't know, a big time pass rusher, a couple million more dollars, and you have a elite pass rusher, at Yannick Ngakoue, perfect fit for our scheme at outside linebacker. Absolutely perfect. Pairing him with, honestly, not even opposed to taking Kyler Fackrell and extending him. And then you get Lorenzo Card and O'Shane Ximines back next year. I'm pretty excited by that fact, is, actually having a healthy unit. And then you have Xavier McKinney, who can stop the run as well and move up from the safety position. I actually like the idea of letting Williams go, taking BJ Hill, drafting another guy, rotating them, just big bodies. And John, you're exactly right with Saquon. They really just don't scheme around him well. Anthony and I have talked about this on multiple occasions with Saquon, that they should just steal plays from the Saints. If you use Saquon the same way that they use Alvin Kamara, you will see an entire different mentality to this offense. And I know he's not the same receiving back as Alvin Kamara, but when Saquon Barkley is averaging, he could be, though. That's the thing. He could be even like a third of what Kamara is, or half, or whatever. What we've seen with Saquon is he's averaging about 4 catches per game, and Alvin Kamara is in the 10 to 13 range of receptions per game. So tell me what is the difference there? Like, it's pretty obvious if you ask me. Now, I'm in the boat that you have to get the ball into Saquon Barkley's hands as much as possible, especially in mismatches. Somehow they scheme Alvin Kamara open without Michael Thomas in the lineup, by the way. They have what's his name? Traquan Smith. They're scheming Alvin Kamara open into the flat, into open space, or 1v1 matchups, and he's just so good in open space, just like Saquon. We have completely underutilized Saquon Barkley, not used him to his strengths. And that is what I've been trying to say this entire year, is that Jason Garrett has not used any player to their strengths, whether it's Darius Slayton, Evan Engram, Golden Tate, even Sterling Shepard. When he was there the first 2 weeks, he looked like garbage. And then Saquon obviously gets injured, so we don't really know what would have happened there. But I just think that Saquon Barkley is such an elusive and such a great player that if you don't maximize him, you might as well just trade him. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we don't want to do that, but it's just the mentality that I have.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I agree with what Simon just said. They shouldn't force Saquon to be a power back. I do feel like that's what they've been doing. They've been forcing him to run downhill between the tackles and try and gain extra yardage when that's really not Saquon's playing style. That's not his strength. His strength is to get him out in space and have him make guys miss, juke some guys, hurdle some guys, whatever. So when I see them do the halfback screens and he goes for 35 yards, I'm like, okay, breath of fresh air. Yeah. That's what you want to see. You want to see him get in space with some lead blockers and navigate his way down the field and make guys miss on his way to a big gain. But when they just give him a halfback dive, inside zone, up the middle every single time, that's not Saquon Barkley's strength. You're not going to get anywhere with that. You need to have some outside zones. You need to have some sweeps. Agreed. You got to get him out in space. But the Giants have really failed to do that under both Shermer and Jason Garrett. And I get that Saquon Barkley is very large. He's a very big back, but he doesn't play big. He doesn't run people over. He's not a power back that's going to truck through a linebacker to gain an extra 5 yards. He's not going to do that. He's going to go around people. So you want to give him some space so that he has room to jump around. He, like we've said before, he's a scat back in a power back's body. And he's extremely talented. No disrespect to scat back. It's not an indictment on him to be a scat back. It's just the fact that he is one of the more elusive running backs, kind of like a Barry Sanders and not a Walter Payton. Walter Payton used to run dudes over. Barry Sanders used to make guys miss. So I think that's a good way to make the analogy there. So, and Simon said he can pound it in the end zone when needed, but also he doesn't even do that. He likes to jump over the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he likes to
and
jump,
go hurling into the end zone. So it is dangerous, and it might not be good for his knees, especially now that he has a bad knee. So maybe
I was thinking more fumbles. We've seen him fumble like that before.
Yeah, but he scored. It went over the line. He scored,
but still, it's risky. It's risky. You prefer just to run it in like behind your blockers. I would say like you want to just follow your blockers. That's the ideal way of doing it. And what do you think about this, guys? I actually like the concept of finding like a bigger back, like Latavius Murray, like they do with Alvin Kamara, and just using this bigger back to pick up those short yardage, move the chains a little bit forward, be the power back, and put both of them on the field at the same time. Use creative ways to involve Saquon Barkley, but you don't need to force Saquon Barkley into this power zone run scheme. And I agree with you guys. Like, that's not his game. He's a glorified scat back who. And that's not a bad thing, by the way. being a glorified scat back isn't a bad thing because Kamara is a glorified scat back. And I would rather have the way they utilize him on the Saints any day over the way we utilize Saquon Barkley. We would actually justify paying Saquon Barkley if we used him half as what the Saints do with Alvin Kamara. That's just the way it looks. Even look at Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones and Saquon Barkley, like they're not similar players, but look what they do with Aaron Jones. They bring in, what's the other guy's name?
Jamal Williams.
They bring them in, two halfback sets, and they literally do creative things. They get him into space. They throw him the ball on screens. They run him with good blocking because they stretch the field.
Aaron Jones runs routes 20 yards down the field sometimes.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, why can't Saquon do that? We've seen him do it. We saw him do it against Washington last year.
Mm-hmm.
The 20-yard touchdown pass up the seam. Well,
right?
Yeah,
We've
why
seen
not?
him do it. We just don't see him do it enough. And I wanna respond to this question from Montero about, was Jason Garrett the worst signing this offseason? He feels like Dallas was laughing at the Giants for hiring him as offensive coordinator. And it's kind of weird because I thought that signing was very boom or bust. It could have been the best signing of the offseason because I felt like, you look at Dallas's offense over the last decade, it's been a top 10 offense every single year. So Jason Garrett, while he hasn't called plays in a while and he wasn't a great head coach, he should have at least been able to give us a top 10 offense, I felt like, or at least top 15. So far, we've seen nothing like that. We've seen one of the worst offenses in the NFL. It's been completely vanilla and predictable. But was it the worst signing? Sure, you could probably call it that right now, but I do think that there's some time to see that get worked out, and maybe it can improve as the season goes on. But I am very disappointed with Jason Garrett. I really expected more. Like I said, I expected at least an average to above offense, and we haven't had anything close to that. So sure, I think we could call that the worst signing so far. Very disappointing. And I do feel kind of like I was tricked because I really believed that was going to be a good signing. But it shows how much I know. I guess I don't know a whole lot.
No, see, I have a different opinion, though. I think that Jason Garrett knows what he is capable of doing. I just don't think he's letting his team do it. Like last week against Dallas in the first quarter, we saw an offense that did not exist the first 4 weeks of the season. And then he just tapered off. So what does that really tell you, though? Does that tell you maybe the Giants just don't know his entire scheme yet? Maybe, like you said last week on the podcast, they basically were going through the preseason the first 3 games. They had no preseason, no time. They were learning most of this scheme virtually without actually doing it on the field. I think his scheme is way more complicated than we're giving him credit for. And what we saw last week was they game planned, right, for a specific quarter to open the game to get things started off quickly, and they did a really good job of that. But they game planned that entire first quarter, and it showed with the way they were doing things. Now, I just don't think he has the talent to actually utilize correctly. Daniel Jones, like you guys mentioned before, is staring down his receivers. Like he does. I don't think Daniel Jones fully understands the playbook yet and fully has a grasp of it. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in 3 weeks. He's fumbled the ball 4 times. He's thrown 5 interceptions. He's just not really getting it done in the receiving game. And maybe Garrett's just used to different types of talent. Also, let me mention this. Jason Garrett is used to having an elite offensive line, and now he has the worst offensive line in the NFL. So going from the polarizing opposite is probably difficult for his scheme because he expects certain things for his scheme to operate at a high level, and we just haven't seen it. Like the pass blocking last week for the Giants, I have never seen 2 tackles perform worse at an NFL level in my entire life, and we've seen Eric Flowers. Like Andrew Thomas.
You're forgetting the Eric Flowers, Marshall Newhouse days. Those were pretty bad.
Okay, those were bad, but last week specifically, they gave up multiple sacks.
I know. They
9
really
pressures on both sides. They both graded below a 30 per PFF.
I know.
They both graded out. I can't even begin to tell you. And meanwhile, we have Evan Engram over here trying to block Aldon Smith rushing the passer, right? What I saw multiple times that they had Evan Engram lined up over Aldon Smith trying to block him. And he completely just obliterates Evan Engram, right? Like runs over him. And I'm sitting here like, there is no way in hell that our offensive coordinator is scheming that, right? Because like Simon said, if that is the case and he's actually like lining up Evan Engram to do that, there is no way that he is kept after this year, right? That is malpractice. You're like like as fans, even we're looking at that like that's the dumbest shit I've ever seen, right? That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Lining Evan Engram, who's like 60 pounds lighter than Aldon Smith, in pass protection off the left tackle. Like, really? Is that the type of offense that we're running? So now we have to make some changes. I think Jason Garrett is capable of it. I just haven't seen the progress that I would have liked to.
Yeah, and I'll say I agree with Caesar here. Some of the best offensive linemen take 2 to 3 years to fully develop. I definitely think that applies to Andrew Thomas. You got to be patient with him. It's been a rough first 5 weeks, but you know what? Look at the competition that he's gone up against. He's really faced some of the best pass rushers in the NFL week after week. And I'm confident that Andrew Thomas will be able to turn it around. He is a very solid prospect. So far, his NFL career has been shaky, but he just needs some time. You know, I think one of the main things with this offensive line that we have that we have to acknowledge is there's no continuity. We have a new left tackle. We have a new right tackle. We have a new center. The only things that stay constant were the left guard and the right guard, and left guard hasn't been playing so well since his rookie year. Hernandez has really struggled, and there's just no chemistry on that left side of the line from center to left guard to left tackle. And then there's really none from – there's no chemistry on any side of the line, actually. There is just no chemistry on this offensive line, and you have to take that into account. So while we might get really frustrated because the offensive line does look like one of the worst in the NFL and they have struggled immensely, there is reason for that, and there is time for them to develop, and there's time for them to improve. And hopefully by next year, we can see Andrew Thomas start to take some steps towards being one of those solid offensive tackles, and then maybe we could see Shane Lemieux and Matt Parrott start to get worked into the lineup, and we can see if we really did find 3 solid offensive linemen in this draft. Because if we did, we'll be setting ourselves up for the future very well there. Since they will be on the same contracts and get paid at the same time, and then we could just build that offensive line all at the same time. That would be perfect. So hopefully by the end of the year, we get to see Matt Parrott in the lineup and Shane Lemieux as well. I think if Will Hernandez continues to struggle the way that he has, we will see Shane Lemieux in the lineup before the season's end.
Look, honestly, at the rate that this offensive line is going, unless they don't take significant steps, and Andrew Thomas is only seeing very, very minor growth in run blocking, his pass blocking has consistently gotten worse. The way I see this going is I actually think that, well, we have Nate Solder coming back next year. If we draft Penei Sewell, he's starting at left tackle. Apologies. He's starting at left tackle. I think that Will Hernandez stays at left guard. I think Nick Gates still stays at center. And I think that Lemieux is actually the long-term replacement for Zeitler. That's how I feel about him. And I think that right tackle will be Andrew Thomas. Or Matt Parrott. And having a really good depth is not a bad thing. Having a good player like Matt Parrott to fill in if need be is never a bad thing. Like, honestly, in best case scenario, Matt Parrott doesn't even have to start because we figure it out, right? He sits behind there. He can play left and right tackle and fill in if there's an injury or anything, and we can feel confident moving forward. That is what good teams do. They have very, very talented depth. And that's why I like Julian Love, by the way, because I think he's very capable of playing multiple positions. And I think that they've kind of done a good job of setting the stage for the depth that we didn't have in the past. Like Curtis Riley would go down and we'd have like some random dude come in and you've never seen, right? You've never seen anyone play as bad as like Curtis Riley's replacement. But now, you know, Xavier McKinney goes down and you have Julian Love. And if Julian Love goes down, you have Adrian Colbert, you have Logan Ryan. We have guys who can play multiple spots. And Simon, like, you're spot on. If we get Penei Sewell, we have one of the best depth options in the league, because now you have him at left tackle and he's a generational lineman. He's like Quentin Nelson at left tackle. And that's kind of like something you don't come across very often, obviously. And alternatively, you know, you're looking at Trevor Lawrence if you have the first pick, but I think the Jets are pretty much a lock. I think we're going to win a couple games and the Jets are going to lose every game. They're in tank mode right now.
Wow.
And the reason I say that
they win a single game.
I don't think they win a single game. And I talked to many Jets fans who I'm friends with, and they're like, we don't even think we're going to win a single game, because think about it.
Wow.
If they wanted to win, they would have fired Adam Gase already, and they wouldn't have traded Le'Veon Bell, right? They're in full tank mode, in my opinion. And Denzel Mims is out. Mekhi Becton's injured. Their entire team is a mess. They're playing for the next draft because they have like 4 first-round picks.
That's true. Their team is a mess.
We're in a better spot than them, at least.
We're definitely in a better spot, and I definitely think,
even though we're losing,
the head coach has a lot to do with that. I think we can have some confidence in Joe Judge and the future of our team and the direction it's headed with Joe Judge. But I think that if you have, Adam Gase, there is no confidence in the future.
Oh no,
I've never been a fan of
honestly
Adam
might
Gase.
leave.
I
I might
thought he
leave the
was.
fan base.
I thought he was awful in Miami. I had no idea why the Jets signed him as their head coach. I thought that was mind-boggling. So, oh well.
Actually,
The Jets want to go 0-16. That'll be fun.
I know. And
Plenty to
John's
make
saying the
fun of them
players are
for.
playing to win. The players are playing to win, but I don't think the coaches are playing to win. That's the difference.
I mean, I think that they're all trying to win. They're just so bad that they simply can't do it. That's it.
See, like
I just think
I
they're
would
so
agree,
bad.
but at the same time, like their scheming is so bad. Like their defense is actually okay.
Darnold's been playing to win. I mean, he's had some plays where he's really been eye-opening and he's shown those flashes, which he's been doing. He's been showing all of those flashes every single year. You can see Darnold is improving and looking like a good quarterback, but then something just holds him back. He either gets mono or he hurts his shoulder or the offensive scheme is terrible or his receiver gets hurt, his running back gets cut. Something always happens to Darnold. I honestly feel really bad for that guy because coming out of college was such a solid prospect and he really deserves like a lot better than what he's getting. But with this Jets team, he's just never going to be able to ascend to that level of 100%. Performance that we know that he's capable of. So hopefully
they'll ruin Trevor Lawrence, though. They will ruin Trevor Lawrence.
I don't know. I think it's hard to ruin Trevor Lawrence. He's pretty damn good. But hopefully for Sam Darnold's sake,
they'll ruin him.
Once the Jets, assuming they get the first pick, if they do get the first pick and they get Trevor Lawrence, hopefully Darnold goes to a solid situation and we can see him be a starting quarterback for another team. Because I think it would almost be a situation like Ryan Tannehill, where he would leave and he'd go elsewhere and then he'd prove himself as a franchise quarterback. Because that's what I see in Sam Darnold. I do see that he has that ability. And I think everybody saw that coming out of college. He was a third overall pick in that draft.
I think he'd be good on the Colts.
The Colts, I really like that actually. Sam Darnold on
I think
Colts.
He'd be good.
I really want that to happen.
I really
want that to happen.
Phillip Rivers isn't getting it done right now for them, and I could see Sam Darnold really slinging it to Hilton. And the Jets. Okay, so I was talking to my friend last night about the Jets, and I gave them kind of a plan. I told them this is what they should do if they have the number 1 overall pick, which I think they will. I think that they draft Trevor Lawrence. They get rid of Brashad Perriman. They get rid of these like just filler players. They go out and they sign Allen Robinson, right? So now you have Allen Robinson, Trevor Lawrence, and Denzel Mims. Pretty solid group of players there. You don't have bad tight ends with Chris Herndon and Ryan Griffin. I actually like those guys. Their offensive line needs continuity. They don't have a terrible players, but I think they can go out and get a guard, right? They can go out and sign a guard, but they have to give, if they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence, they got to give him talent to work with, right? They need a running back too now. They have Frank Gore and they have LaMichael Perrine. So what do you do there? You got to go out and sign a running back. I don't know. Their team is a complete mess. And Joe Douglas has had zero chance to actually leave his mark on this team. The whole Le'Veon Bell situation, everything he's inherited, he's still trying to get rid of all of those guys. He tried to trade Le'Veon Bell, tried to get him a healthy game and then trade him. Obviously that didn't work. So I ended up just cutting him. But with that being said, we're about to wrap up because the game's going to start in a couple of minutes. But Anthony, I want to leave your score prediction. Leave your score predictions, guys, in the chat. I want to see what you guys think. I actually think the Giants are going to win this week. I'm going to go with 17-14 Giants. I think it's going to be a little low scoring, more of a defensive battle. But I think Graham Gano is going to be our savior. He's going to win the game for us at the end.
I'm going to go 28-21 Giants. I think they win by a score, and I think that Daniel Jones gets the ball in the end zone twice. And I really hope so. And I want to respond to a few things that people in the chat said first. Someone said something about Nick Gates not believing in him. I believed in him for a while. I'm starting to have doubts, so let's check in on that after this week and see if he improves at all. I do think he's been showing progress. 24-14, I think that's a pretty solid prediction, Simon. I do think we're going to get a win today. I think Daniel Jones has to play better. Otherwise, we're going to start to get really concerned and have to heat up those Trevor Lawrence talks. So let's hope that Daniel Jones can put it together today. This is a favorable matchup for us. I think we're going to get the win. Caesar says 21-17 Giants, same score as Super Bowl 46. I like that. I do think the Giants get a few more points on the board, though, against this Washington defense. So what do you think, Alex?
17-14. Graham Gano saves the day.
Graham Gano.
I think he's our best offensive player. I think he's going to come through for us, and he's going to nail a game winner from 43 yards.
I think one fumble, John. One fumble. That's all I'm going with. Just one.
Yeah, I think Chase Young's going to make him fumble once.
I hope not. Thanks,
Yeah.
Simon, for the compliment. Thank you guys for tuning in. We had a fun time. We're going to do these every single week. We will try to do one next Thursday night before the Thursday night matchup with
we definitely do
Philadelphia.
one. We'll definitely do one before Thursday.
Yeah, we'll definitely be doing one. And mailbag this week. Make sure you leave your questions on Twitter, YouTube, and anywhere else that you find us, Facebook too, even. I'm sure we'll find them there. So, stay tuned, guys. Have a good one. Enjoy the game today. Go Giants.